І першою темою ми будемо говорити про найманців, які воюють.
Speak about mercenaries that fight on the side of terrorists in the east of Ukraine in Donetsk and Luhansk regions. We'll discuss that with the General Major Oleksandr Rozmaznin, and he represents the General Staff of Armed Forces of Ukraine. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. It's a great pleasure to talk to you after some break. And the topic of our discussion is very important because we'll cover the issue of those mercenaries that fight on the side of on our territory, and they participate in military activities in the combat area, and they represent those countries. And they present different countries. I speak about participants of illegal military groups. We should have to state the fact that citizens of Ukraine participate in them, but a low percentage. The highest percentage of citizens who participate, those are mercenaries from other countries, first of all from our northern neighbor, Russian Federation. And if we speak about nationalities and that fight in Donbas, all nations who live in Russia, and all ethnic groups, because the system is very simple of hiring military men of Russian armed forces. They are relieved, dismissed, and they sign a contract to do some activities as a part of those military groups, and they are sent to the territory of our state. If to speak about numbers, at present in Donbas region, around 32,400 people. Among them, 10,000, those are military men from armed forces of Russian Federation. All the rest are representatives of so-called illegal military groups. And preparing for this conversation, for this briefing, I wanted to give you some examples. And that's about participants of so-called illegal formations and present on the territory of our country. I will give you I will show you some pictures. These are documents, quite fresh. I didn't want to use the old ones. For example, the first, the Hamblot Fakhovasanovich, and here's the picture of the guy. On the other one is there is also a representative of Kadyrov Chechnya, because Chechens are citizens of that republic. The majority of them, they support Ukraine. Only Kadyrov follows, or Kadyrov group. They come to our land to kill our people. On this picture, we see a leader of Donetsk, so-called People's Republic, Zakharchenko, who is hugging Chechen mercenaries, and they are those two people, pictures of whom I showed to you. Here they are, embracing the leader of Donetsk, so-called Donetsk People's Republic. The other category, which is represented on the territory of Donbas, they are so-called representatives of Cossacks. I personally, when I was in the area of our mission, I was there for long, I spoke to one of leaders of Cossacks who came to inspect Cossacks and who was arrested by Aidar battalion. They kept him for long and they wanted to exchange him for Nadia Savchenko. I spoke to him. He's a very smart man. And he told Mr. General, it's great that you are a military man, and I understand the big mistake we committed when we came to fight on your land. And if I am relieved, in my release, I will go to the meeting of our leaders and I will tell them that this is a mistake, because we are Christians. We should not fight against Christians, especially on this sacred land from which Christianity came. That's why here's one more picture for you of Cossacks representatives within different Cossack groups of Cossacks, Donetsk, Zabalkaisk, etc. Here's Volga Cossack representatives. Here's our heroes. They are looting. They are famous for looting. Cossacks are famous in Donetsk because they are looters of the highest rank. That's clear. I wanted to say that not all people who come to our country agree that they are sent. Here's a telegram. I'll read it for you. I received it recently from relatives of a contracted sailor. His mother's writer. My son Zhiltsov Nikita, after the service, he signed a contract and he was sent to Baltisk and as a part of Navy. And his brigade was sent to military to participate in military activities in Ukraine. I and my say are against that, and please help my son to get retired and help him to stop the contract agreement. She sent that representative to the representative on human rights, Ponomarev. It's a proof that on our territory there are Russian mercenaries, and this is a memorial which was installed in one of the military units on Russian Federation, and where it says there are names of those who were fighting and who died on the territory of Ukraine.
Приводяться дані, доповіді, які на
They receive some information from leaders of military units of Russian Federation, and they report that in Luhansk, and from small arms and grenade launchers, they were attacked. The tax inspection was attacked, and there were a unit of FSB of Russia Wimpel. During the storm, 3 were wounded, two heavily wounded, 2 died. So they lost from artillery brigade, and they fight on the territory of Ukraine near Mariupol. During the battle with the defense of Mariupol, and there were armed forces of Ukraine, and there was probably a unit of Azov. The Navy from Baltic Navy fleet of Russian Federation have losses: 2 died, 2 dead, 3 wounded. At the same time, as a response, armed forces of Ukraine destroyed 2 and damaged 1 howitz, 2 A-65. Those that is used as a TAC vehicle. In Pervomaisk, the 8th unit, because of the response of artillery of Ukrainian forces, 1 dead, 4 wounded. This is a report. This report was the date is from today. It was not a long time ago. It's from today. Yesterday there is also a report from Debaltseve when our 32 brigade motor vehicle brigade, which is dislocated in Novosibirsk and now in Shiloh, near. It was attacked by armed forces of Ukraine. Two dead, 11 wounded. The battle was stopped near Donetsk airport, but they have losses. Special Brigade Group GSHA, Russian Federation. You know probably that the chief of the staff of that brigade died. Here are their losses. 299 dead, 199 wounded, and I can continue. I could give you these reports. I could continue reading these reports, but it's not our goal. Just give you just numbers and examples. But I have to say that walking in the area of the battles, I saw representatives, not only citizens of Russian Federation, but also I saw a citizen of Israel, and he told, I came to make some money, and I read in internet that there's such a chance. He is near the Balzo, a commander of Serbian unit of Ivan Shevich, Bratislav Žižković was arrested, and this guy, this Mr. Bratislav, together with his friends or other guys from Serbia, they are on this picture. There are representatives also from Spain, volunteers from Spain, from Italy, and here's a picture of those who arrived from Spain and from Italy. Here are 3 men. Here's so-called volunteers, but they are mercenaries, and they're called wild geese, and they are from Brazil. Here on the picture they are. I have a picture, and here we have guys from France, Italy, Ayo Michel, Victor, and Nicola. Victor from Salanta, Michel, Takahashi, Nikola Petrovich. Here they are. They are arrested. Here they are real people. It's not, I don't invent, I don't make up. These are bandits who fight on our land. A mercenary from we don't know, from Serbia, and his nickname's Daki. Here's once again, I will repeat myself. Rafael Lusvarhi, a policeman from Brazil, once was a former policeman, and he's fighting on our land. So, just for your understanding, unfortunately, there are people who sympathize our country, and there are people who came to provide assistance to us, and from the US, from France, they fight on our side, and Russian citizens, there are officers, Russian officers, and there are officers, and they ask not to make their names public because their families are in Russia. There are soldiers who refused to fight in Ukraine, Russian, and they joined our armed forces. So there are people who are not indifferent and who disagree with the policy of the leadership of Russia. Here, you.
So there are questions, colleagues. You're welcome. The first row. Military TV, Katerina Litvinchuk. Please tell me about legal grounds for participation of foreign citizens in Ukrainian army. So our legal grounds are mostly limited to what our president said when he made his speech at the beginning of parliament work, and he said all foreigners who came here to fight, all of them are volunteers. No citizen of the other country is not Ukrainian military. He doesn't serve in Ukrainian regular army or internal affairs battalions. All of them are volunteers. All those who fight in our volunteers battalions who want to take Ukrainian citizenship, they are all welcome, and one of them was a FSB officer from Russia. As all our military men. ICTV channel, please help us to sort out the situation if you are competent enough. Since March, the military people who has been living in the hostels, when they leave to serve in ATO, when they participate in military actions, their families has to pay awful, fantastic bills for their housing. Unfortunately, yes, such situation happens. Not all the heads of the companies, of the utility companies, and those who own the residential sites understand that one of the person who actually is a breadwinner, have to go to war to fight. Unfortunately, we have quite a number of such cases. And we come across the situation which we often come across in the Soviet Union, when people who fought in Afghanistan were said that it's not our fault, we didn't send you there, so it's up to you to sort out your problems. And we hope, but we have quite a number of the leaders, managers, owners, landlords who understand the situation and do their best to assist them. Are there any mechanisms to regulate? We have already defined by the regulation mechanism. They are defined in the bylaws by Cabinet of Ministers, and those documents are registered properly, and they are legal, so to say, enough to follow them. Unfortunately, not all the local authorities and not all the heads of the local enterprises follow them, and unfortunately they are not always very attentive to that. Are there any questions? Yes, please. 1+1 TV channel, we have an information that some Russian military divisions are being withdrawn from Ukraine. In particular, Tambov special troops are being removed from Ukraine. Do you have any information like that? What should I say? That that Russians often remove their troops, their divisions. Well, the latest information that we have is about the special troops from Armavir and about the special troops from Krasnodar area. It's Edelweiss, and they were in fact those people who captured the first terminal in Donetsk, but then they were defeated, and then they were removed. And when they asked to deploy their troops and to take care of their people, we always agree to that, and Russians do their best to rotate their troops because people cannot stand the pressure, and they cannot stand what they have to face. Quite opposite to our military people, who fight for their land, for their home. Russians do not understand, so Russians have to rotate their troops. Is there any more questions? Interfax Ukraine, you mentioned about soldiers of fortune from different countries of the world who you detained. When we are going to show them to public, why we were not aware about that? Well, I should say that all the detained persons are given to security service of Ukraine, and they make their decisions who to be publicized and who to be kept confidential. I showed you the detained people detained by the military force, but they are not military force are not doing certain things. We do not keep them. We give them to appropriate agencies, and you saw the pictures which were taken by the, so to say, competent services, and they're working. And what about yesterday's information of the Human Rights Watch about cassette bombs? So it was a reaction. Why so? What this information is related to? This information is related to the Russian Federation. It was time when they reinforced their activities in the late August, on August 24, and they started to use all their armaments, rocket armaments, in particular cassette bombs, and it was it used to be the volunteer battalion, but now it's called differently, and people, those are division which was rotated, and Russians shooted this battalion, and in order to hide what they've done, they are announcing Ukrainians using this sort of armaments. Yes, we have this sort of armaments. However, I should tell you that no artillery divisions received these sort of weapons. We didn't have the task of doing that. It's mass destruction armaments, and well, I have the experience. I know how it works, and it means that if this bomb is used, the territory is absolutely deprived, everything is killed and ruined. If we used that, if we applied that sort of armaments, everyone would have known that, but Russians use that. Українські новини, Ukrainian News Agency. You mentioned about international volunteer people who fight at Ukrainian side. How many are they, and how do you, well, what is your attitude to the president's willingness to grant Ukrainian citizenship? Well, I can't tell you the exact number. I must be truthful. I'm not ready with the numbers for this meeting, but if I have a chance and to meet you once again, I will give you the correct numbers. However, I would say that it's approximately 1,000 persons, and well, you know, people made their choice. They have chosen us Ukrainians, and they're defending us, and I believe that's a good reason to grant them our citizenship. Can you imagine a Russian citizen coming back home? But if he has a Ukrainian citizenship, he has the right to reside, to live here, to work for his or her future, have their children. And I want to continue with the question towards weapons. It was mentioned that Russia has their Iskander weapons in Crimea. If it is so, what does it mean for Ukraine? Well, we know that missile complex Iskander is a Russian weapon, and we know that this complex is deployed in Crimea. It is a tactic complex, and it substituted Tochka complex. It was the first one was one missile. This is two missile with a longer range, and it is bad for us. Any missile complex means is able to carry certain nuclear weapon, nuclear elements, and the fact of having this Iskander complex, Iskander missiles, means threat for us. We know that artillery systems are able to be used to use the nuclear elements. However, Iskander is much more powerful thing. However, as far as I know, not only nuclear but also cassette weapons can be used. Small power, bigger power. So, in a word, missile complex is a threat for us, and we should think how we can defend ourselves. One more question. It's a little bit different from what we're discussing now. However, I have to ask you as a general of Ukrainian army. We are discussing the defense of Donetsk airport. The defenders are really heroes, but why? Why should we defend this absolutely ruined Donetsk airport? Well, I think that each generation has its symbols who our kids try to imitate, to follow. You know, Soviet Union used to have Stalingrad and Leningrad examples. It could be operated differently. However, it became a symbol of courage. The same story with our Donetsk airport. Strategically, it's a very good position because it is located in Donetsk city area, and there are also certain actions which can lead to, well, you know, to help our guys. We call them keyboard, however, they are humans, and we're proud of our people. They are our people, and we often ask why. My answer is because of Ukraine, for Ukraine. And you know, if or when we leave it, then it is become a threshold for coming back. And we're going to have thank you very much. We're going to have our next briefing in a couple of minutes.